gonna be asking for your seat there.
Do your filtered water. It's a pain. It's so easy. But I've got the water right by the refrigerator, then I put it in the refrigerator.
Clinton City Council will please come to order. We'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman.
Here.
Seeley.
Here.
McGraw. Here. O'Neill.
Here.
Connell.
Here.
Allacy. Here.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to dispense with the reading of the regular council meeting minutes, the committee of the whole minutes, and the special council meeting minutes of August 23rd, and the special council meeting minutes of August 25th, 2016, and they be approved as published on September 6th, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allacy.
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Thank you. Tonight, we have a proclamation declaring September 21st, 2016 as the International Day of Peace. And the proclamation tonight will be read by Sister Marilyn Shea.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation declaring September 21st, 2016 International Day of Peace. Whereas the issue of peace embraces the deepest hopes of all peoples and remains humanity's guiding inspiration, and whereas in 1981 the United Nations proclaimed the International Day of Peace be devoted to commemorating and strengthening the ideals of peace, both within and among all nations and peoples. And whereas the United Nations expanded the observance of the International Day of Peace in 2001 to include the call for a day of global ceasefire and nonviolence, and invited all nations and people to honor a cessation of hostilities for the duration of the day. And whereas there is growing support within our city for the observance of the International Day of Peace, which affirms a vision of our world at peace and fosters cooperation between individuals, organizations, and nations. And whereas global crises impel all citizens to work toward converting humanity's noblest aspirations for world peace into the practical reality of a culture of peace for future generations. Now, therefore, I, Mark S. Vulich, Mayor of the City of Clinton, Iowa, do hereby proclaim September 21st, 2016 as the International Day of Peace throughout the City of Clinton, Iowa, and urge all government departments and agencies, organizations, schools, places of worship, and individuals in our city to commemorate in an appropriate manner the International Day of Peace. This may include community service projects, cultural exhibits and performances, a moment of silence, ringing of bells, sharing the universal message, may peace prevail on earth at noon, vigils, religious services in our places of worship, and other education and public awareness activities in order to help establish a global day of peace in our homes, our communities, and between nations. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Clinton to be affixed this 13th day of September, 2016. Mark S. Vulich, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sister.
Thank you.
We have no public hearings tonight, so we will move to audience comment. I have no one that's turned in a slip that wished to speak to the council, so I will ask if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak. And hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented on the attachment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Yes?
I'd like
Councilmember
to,
O'Neill?
I'd like to pull number 10 for clarification.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Could we have a roll call vote on the balance of the consent agenda, please?
Councilmember Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on now to motions, resolutions, and ordinances. Councilmember Allison.
Yes, Your Honor, I have an ordinance for first consideration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 52 with multiple amendments to sanitary sewer system of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Clinton, Iowa.
Thank you. Councilmember Gassman.
Thank you, Honor. I have an ordinance for the first consideration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 53 with multiple amendments to stormwater management of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Clinton, Iowa.
Thank you. Councilmember Connell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance for the second and third consideration.
Why don't we do the second first?
That would be great.
Okay.
An ordinance amending
Oh,
Chapter
wait,
7.
we have to have our vote first.
Second.
We have to have a second. Now we'll have our vote.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 76 Traffic Code subsection .05 truck route of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Clinton, Iowa. 1 second here. I move the council consider this ordinance for the,
No, we have to suspend the rules first.
oh, sorry, excuse me. Like to suspend the rules. The council consider the ordinance for the third time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 76 Traffic Code subsection .05 truck route of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Clinton, Iowa. I move the rules be suspended under the ordinance and consider this be placed on its final passage and adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
I second it.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes,
Thank you. Councilmember McGraw.
thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving implementation of no parking zones on 20th Avenue North between North 3rd Street and Pershing Boulevard. I move that the resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes,
O'Neill?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving the modification to driving lane configuration on Fifth Avenue South from First Street to Fourth Street to incorporate a center of the road bike lanes and a conventional lanes from Fourth Street to Ninth Street within the city of Clinton, Iowa. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
yes,
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McGraw.
thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving amendments to the purchasing policy. I move that this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Allison.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing transfer of funds from iPaid account to Clinton National Bank depository account. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Gasman.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Gassman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution approving a renewal agreement with CGI Communications, Inc. for a community video program. I move this be adopted as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? For the council that does not, oh, Councilmember McGraw?
I'd like to know what this is.
That's what I was just going to explain.
Okay.
Back in November of 2011, Jeff Horn, city administrator, entered into an agreement with CGI Communications. He did not at the time get council approval for this, but he signed a contract with them to make a video, and there's, I believe, 4 or 5 of them. They are on the city's website right now. If you go into, I believe it's under, Jessica, where is it at? Under tourism or visitors?
It's under for visitors, and it's under the link, take a virtual tour of the city.
Okay, so there's a link there, there's 4 or 5 videos, and what this organization, the contract allows them to go to businesses in this community and solicit advertising revenue from them, in which we actually are providing them with a letterhead, I think says that, you know, I don't know what, I've never seen what the letter actually says, but it says there's a letter that authorized by the city to do this, and there's actually advertising around this video on our website. I've been opposed to it, came up for renewal. I don't think that it looks good for a city to be having advertising for businesses on a website. It looks like something more should be Convention and Visitors Bureau or the Chamber or somebody else, but I'm not in favor of this, but, you know, this is a council decision if they want to pursue it. I'm not sure anybody really knew what this agreement consisted of, so.
Well, it's a no-cost agreement.
It's a no-cost agreement, but we also we have no control over how they also in the future market that video or what they do to, how much money they make off of it. We have no say on it. If you read the contract, it's basically, we're giving them the rights to do whatever they want, and I know, I always worry about turning somebody loose in a community to sell advertising. And that money's leaving Clinton. So, Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. And they have a letterhead from,
If you read the contract, yeah, it says that they'll
well,
use it.
I didn't even know it existed, so.
Yeah, well, it's in that, what we'll provide, you've got it right there in front of you. You just flip by it. It's in that fine print to the left. It's in the fine print that will provide a City of Clinton letterhead, I believe.
Okay,
Do we have some control over what is actually in the video?
Yes, we have control over the videos. They draft the scripts and then had sent the scripts to us for review. We have control over the type of videos as well, and really what is based there.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way. They wanted me to appear in the video, and I read the scripts, and it's a little bit more of a canned speech that I looked at a couple of their other, very similar. They're writing the same thing for any
missed
town.
your chance at stardom.
Yeah.
It said, it
They
will
have to
provide
do
a
it.
letterhead of introduction for the program on the city's letterhead. Councilmember O'Neill?
Thank you, Your Honor. 2 things. One, I agree with Councilperson McGraw that I didn't know what this was, and I'm not real sure I'm happy with it. It was done without authorization of the council. But that being said, I'm not totally opposed to it. But what I do have a problem with, or maybe it's not a problem, but what I'd like to see is maybe to incorporate this in our campaign that we got going on now. I don't think we should have one person out there doing one thing, and then the Chamber of Commerce that we're in partnership with through a resolution doing another thing. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table this at least till the next meeting so we can come up with maybe a compromise.
Okay,
That's a motion.
Okay.
I'll
Second.
second.
Yeah.
We have
that's
a
fine.
motion and a second. So could we have a roll call vote on the table, please?
Councilmember Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Gasman,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll bring that back at the next meeting then.
With some real clarification and maybe some input from the chamber, how they feel about it.
I had sought that. The chamber had provided input into that, and we were looking at expanding the videos that we had to cover tourism and some of the other things.
Right, I mean, that's a $30,000 deal we got put together there, and I don't want something totally opposite or working against it without their,
I
I
would
don't want
hope
working
between now and next week, everyone would go to our website and look at it.
I actually viewed them tonight, and they're quite dated.
Yeah.
Some of them were neat, though.
If it were 11, though, it would be quite dated.
Yeah, yeah.
I must have been in there.
Okay, we need to move on since we tabled that, so we'll go to Councilmember Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution accepting bid and awarding contract number 4 for the 2016 demolition of structures project. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember McGraw.
I guess I'd like to know how these 3 places were chosen. There's a lot of places in town. Why were these 3 chosen to demo?
Well, this one's up in my neck of the woods, and it was a house that was let go, and it was supposed to be demoed before, and there was some reason why
This
it
is only
didn't get done.
One house.
It's only
correct?
one.
Yeah.
And it's a blues vinyl home that is full of mold and everything else, so.
And so this was originally on the demolition list that was going to come back to you, I think, in late 2015 or early 2016, whenever it did come forward. We ended up pulling it off because the owners challenged whether or not it should be on the demolition list. And so after we resolved all outstanding legal issues with the owners and they dropped their protest, I think is the best way to put that, then ultimately we still have a structure that needs to be demolished. And so this is actually clearing up one of the issues that did not actually get a bid awarded on it, but we had put out to bid, I think earlier this year, or late 2015.
Well, isn't that on this list in the committee of the whole, too?
Yes, it is. It is
Okay.
one that, under that other authority, I'm requesting that we actually take title to the property before demolishing. But we did have a bid that was, that we could award for this, and so ultimately, if you approve this, and then you decide to approve the 657A process on it as well, that would be directing the contractor to wait until the city had title to the property.
Well, I rode by this, and it didn't look bad from the outside, but you're saying it's not.
Yeah, it's poor, you
if
can't
you-
live in it.
If you look at it from the alley, you can really see
Oh, I
some of
do.
the,
Okay,
on the
I
back
just went
side.
to the front of it, and it didn't look like a half-bad house.
Wanna buy it?
No.
For $6,000, you can buy it.
Now,
We'll make $200 off of it.
It'll be all yours.
Jessica, I have a question. If we weren't to approve the 657A?
Yep.
Okay, process, and we were gonna, let's say that wasn't even on the agenda, won't we be able to demo this anyway?
Correct. But then what happens is we would demo it, and then we would send the owners a bill for the demolition, and after 30 days they didn't pay, then we would lien it to the property. And then we've just created a property that we're likely going to be
Take care of.
maintaining as a nuisance property next year.
Okay, so if we do this simultaneously, it's to our benefit. Okay.
It's to our benefit to get a hold of the property so we can decide what to do with it. Sell it to somebody or,
If we don't have control of the property, we have to wait several
Just wait,
years
yeah.
before we can do anything with it.
Perfect. All right.
Mhm.
And Lynn might be interested.
No,
Your summer home?
no.
They're north end home.
North end home. No, we don't have a north and a south anymore. There's no big tree. Okay, any other discussion or other questions? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Gassman.
yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution authorizing the contractual increase of the city administrator's salary. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Oops. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allison.
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Allison.
Your Honor, I move that council go into closed session to discuss the employment agreement with Jessica Kinzer as authorized by Iowa Code Section 21.5, parentheses 1, close parentheses, parentheses, I, close parentheses.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Would you like to do,
I'm gonna-
assign pro tem before this?
I actually think the council has to vote that themselves, since I'm not.
Before
gonna-
this, so?
Yeah, I think before you go into closed session, since I'm not going to be attending, and you can't do it inside of a closed session, you'll need to actually, as part of your motion, appoint a mayor pro temp.
I would do that. I would.
So if you
approve.
amend your motion to
I'll-
include it as part of it.
I'll amend the motion to include asking Paul Gassman to become the mayor pro tem for this
Okay,
discussion.
So it's all part of the one resolution.
Okay.
Okay. So is there any other discussion?
For purposes of this motion, the city administrator has requested that this issue be discussed in closed session, and it does, for the record, fall under 21.51I, evaluating the competency of an individual working for the council. And I will state that because we're missing Councilmember Detterman tonight, as the mayor and I discussed earlier, we would need a unanimous vote to go into closed session tonight.
Okay. So if that, any other discussion before we vote? Any other questions? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
No, I feel like we need to wait till we have a full council here.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
We do not have a unanimous vote, so we cannot go into closed session.
Is there a reason why we need a unanimous vote?
Because under 21.51, we don't have a full complement. It would normally be a 2/3 vote of a full complement, but since we're missing a council member, we can only go into closed session on a unanimous, all council members present.
So we will move on, and the next one can't take place because there is no possible motion since there was no closed session held. So that will conclude motions, resolutions, and ordinances for tonight, and we'll move on to unfinished business, which we have one item, which is number 10. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just need clarification where the alley's at and why they want to close and.
Yes, this is actually something, this is on the consent agenda to basically clarify things. This was actually on the planning commission agenda yesterday. It's an alley, as you can see kind of on the backside has a map that's not the easiest to see. But this is one of those areas where we have like a T alley, and those requesting the vacation actually have a retaining wall that is built into the alley. It is a grass alley, it's not gravel, it's not traveled, and ultimately they're the only ones that would have a need to access that alley. They're wanting to rebuild the retaining wall, which means they are asking to make this part of their property at this time.
That's good enough. I move that we approve number 10 as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes our unfinished business. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we adjourn till 7 p.m. on September 26, 2016. 27th, I'm sorry. 27th, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allison?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and we will move directly into the Clinton City Council Committee of the Whole for September 13th, 2016. And whenever our city clerk is ready, we'll begin with roll call.
Councilmember Gassman?
Here.
Seeley?
Here.
McGraw?
Here.
O'Neill?
Here.
Connell?
Here.
Allison?
Here.
Thank you. Item number 1 tonight is a sidewalk variance request for 6th Avenue North. This is a bring back from the last meeting due to a tie vote. And so I will guess we'll want to see, where do we want to start this at tonight? Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the same reason, we are hopelessly tied. So I'd like to make a motion to table this until the return of Councilman Detterman. Obviously, he's going to be the tiebreaker. I haven't talked to him. I don't know where he's going with his vote. But, you know, it's apparent we are still going to be in a deadlock, so for the idea of brevity, I'll make a motion to table this until Councilman Detterman returns to the council.
I'm second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this until Councilmember Detterman's return. Could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Seeley,
No.
McGraw,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
No.
Allison,
No.
Gassman.
Yes.
Okay, we're hopelessly tied. So we will continue. I guess we'll start it this way. It's listed as Dan Serp. Dan, do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. This evening, I did bring a couple of our additional professionals that are
Could you
working.
turn the mic up a little bit? You're a little,
Thank
you're a
you.
little- you're a little taller than some of the people that come up here.
Thank you. I did bring a couple of additional professionals who've been working on our project with us. We have our construction manager, Sid Samuels, in the house this evening, and we also have our project architect and engineer with us, Mr. Mike Lewis with Shive Hattery. Most of you may be familiar with Mr. Lewis. He was the one that was retained by the city and the county jointly to do the needs assessment study on behalf of our two organizations to look at the needs for law enforcement and jailing and the police department and such a few years ago. So I was hoping to give them an opportunity to present their insight into the situation. I think they may have a little bit more information. I know that the county attorney made some comments at our board meeting that he thought were relevant to this conversation. He wasn't able to join us this evening. I'd be happy to relay those thoughts of his as well if you know, that was information you were interested in. You know, I certainly don't want to overstep my bounds, but I do feel like we have some additional information from what was presented the other day. One of the things that the county attorney pointed to in his comments at our board meeting was that of the arrests in Clinton County, roughly 85% of them are done by the city police department. And so they're going to be the primary users of this jail facility, booking people in, using that Sally Port, and that those, you know, the Department of the Police for the city would be the primary ones that would be exposed to those liability concerns that exist. And that was something I think he was going to speak with the city attorney about. I don't know if he had an opportunity to do so. What we're talking about here, sir, since you weren't here last time, that section of sidewalk.
Actually, I was on the phone.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the
Yeah,
issues.
You were right here. So you're familiar with
But
our-
continue anyway.
Well, the ability of those squad cars to exit that Sallyport area with the potential of having a call coming in and trying to be hasty and getting to that next call, and the existence of some potential blind spots, concern about the interaction of squad cars and pedestrian traffic. And then also the safety concerns with regards to pedestrian traffic where we have our secure entrances to that building. So if I could, I'd like to introduce Mr. Lewis and allow him to make a few comments if that's okay. But I think that for the most part, you know, the situation remains the same. We do feel that there's a you know, justification for giving this separate consideration as a potential variance from the ordinance as it's written. So at this time, Mr. Mike Lewis, please.
Julie?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it, and good evening to all of you. Again, it's Michael Lewis with Shive Hattery. I am the lead project architect working on the project. I'm not as tall as Dan, so I'll move the mic. This drawing that was included in the council packet, I believe, that we distributed after the last meeting, shows a little bit more defined area of the layout associated with this. I know there was one question that came up about the 12 diagonal stalls, which is in this area here. Is there a sidewalk there? There is a private sidewalk there that we're looking at, so that when somebody leaves their patrol vehicle on that side, they'll walk on that private sidewalk back to the service area if they need to come back in the facility to fill out paperwork. So there is a partial sidewalk there, but we intend for that to be staff only in the proposed solution. From the corner of 3rd Street and 6th Avenue, going down to what is a sidewalk on the, leaving the courthouse in the center of the courthouse on the south side. That is approximately 400, let me look at my notes here, 428 feet. So the requested sidewalk to be removed is that portion of sidewalk, not the entire sidewalk. It just runs from the corner of 3rd Avenue and 6th all the way down to the sidewalk that currently leaves the courthouse on the south entrance of the courthouse. There was also a question, I believe, about the number of parking stalls affected by this. Currently on the street, there are 7 parking stalls between the corner of 3rd Avenue and 6th, going down to what is currently signed as a no parking area. So there are 7 stalls there today that would be removed by this design. I realize that's not specifically germane to the sidewalk question. I just heard that that was a potential question. I wanted to bring that up. But we will be putting back in 12 parking stalls when those 7 are removed for law enforcement vehicles. Specifically to the issue associated with the parking lot, and I think the liability is our #1 concern. The sidewalk, I meant to say, liability is our #1 concern. On this side of the building, from the corner of the building, which is on 3rd and 6th Avenue, that is the corner of the jail housing unit. That corner that goes back to the gray area here in this area, that's a service and loading dock area of the building. So there will be service vehicles, food service vehicles, laundry vehicles in that loading dock area. And with that traffic being in there, we are very concerned about just pedestrians walking in there in addition to the law enforcement vehicles. The vehicular sally port, this area of the building, you'll come in from the east here and drive through that vehicular sally port and come out on that exchange. And so as that law enforcement vehicle is making that turn in that radius, we just want to make sure that the vehicle exiting the building, sometimes in a hurry because they're going on another call potentially, we just want to make sure that that vehicle and that pedestrian are not in conflict. And so there's very much a safety concern here. We look at it from that reason mainly, to address why we would like that vacation of that existing sidewalk and not putting it back in this design. One other point on the loading dock and service area is the slope of the grade to get from the building here down to the street level. That grade change on there is not a handicap accessible grade change. So putting a sidewalk in there and making it accessible and a slope for accessibility is a challenge for this project because we have to have a certain grade to make that loading dock area work. And right now we would have to adjust those grades to make it accessible, and then the loading dock area would have more difficulty, more challenge given the distance. So those are just a few of the issues that we have. We would really appreciate the project has a strong need to have that sidewalk vacated, and we think it's appropriate for safety. So just my comments. Any questions there, I would welcome. So.
I guess I do have a question. Right now, you've had a building there since about 1968 that I would assume that maybe it's called something different. On the north side, you have the sally port or whatever, that 2-bay garage you use to bring prisoners in now on the north side.
Yes.
Okay. You drive over a sidewalk to get into it. You back out of that garage, I think. Maybe you don't, but I thought you backed out. You backed over this. I want to know, how many injuries have you had of people being hit with that sidewalk?
You know, as not the operator of the facility, but the designer of the new one, I would have to ask if the sheriff or any of his staff could address that because I don't have the specific knowledge.
No, I was just curious because since you're concerned, it's kind of, we've had a similar, it's been on the other side of the building. I was just curious to how many injuries, accidents have occurred on that side of the building.
Again, I don't have any specific knowledge there on what that history is. I do, as a designer, have a concern about what we're doing here going forward.
Okay. Well, I think that's something that should be considered, because I guess I look at your drive going in and out as, then we should probably get rid of every sidewalk and every drive entrance we have in town, because it could apply to anybody's driveway that you drive over. You know, that
Not
just-
every driveway has a law enforcement vehicle driving through it and going to a call.
Well, we should get rid of the sidewalk in front of the fire station then too. Yeah, there's a lot of things you could say there. Councilmember O'Neill?
Okay, on this rendering tonight, is that a crosswalk across 6th Avenue?
We are suggesting that as a way to have pedestrian movement from the south side, that a sidewalk get placed there, a pedestrian crosswalk there. For that movement, that could also move down to the corner of 2nd and 6th Avenue if that's not a desire.
So this is in the middle of the street, a crosswalk?
That's correct.
When
That's
did-
just the recommendation that our civil engineers came up with as a way to
When did that
allow
come-
people to cross back over.
When did that come into play? I
Um,
don't remember it on the last one, that's all I'm
I don't know. We provided this information so that you had it available on what our engineer recommends. That is an option.
no, I'm just saying, the last presentation that was made at our last council meeting, I don't remember that crosswalk being in there. That's my only comment. So is it new, or?
Maybe in the information that you received, that's a possibility.
Okay.
But that is a consideration that we have in this drawing. Tonight, we're specifically asking for the sidewalk, the vacation of the sidewalk, or the removal of the sidewalk, the 420-some feet.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Do you by chance, does anyone have the larger aerial that encompasses the entire building here?
Are you talking about like the GIS?
No,
of the
just-
I have a
existing-
graphic presentation drawing that shows the
that
entire
one.
area.
Now, I'm just thinking outside the box here,
It
we've got the existing walk to the courthouse to remain. The area that connects the new part to the old part, there's no way through on the outside, right? Or is there?
I just want to make sure I'm answering your question. I understand it right. Could you say it one more time?
The way it looked. The building will be connected to the courthouse on the ground level. There would be no outside through the two buildings.
That's correct.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe detour right around there and down the front, but
If you follow this interior sidewalk where it connects to the courthouse there, is there a door to the north side and a door to the south side? Right outside the courthouse?
If I may, I'll just kind of walk you through this and what our expectations are for circulation in the project. The main entrance to the project happens here at this entrance point, right here. That's where all the public will come in and out of the building. There's a security checkpoint there. So all of our parking sits to the north, with the exception of this law enforcement parking, the 12 stalls that we have proposed. This sidewalk that happens here is an exit-only sidewalk for an emergency exit out of that building that will be secured and locked. And it's just a fire exit. We don't expect any movement to go out of that building on a regular basis in this sidewalk. So all of the traffic will come from this side that serves both the courthouse and the jail addition. Everything on that side. So this is the service side of the building. This is the public side of the building. Does that help answer the question?
yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
That green area by the Sally Port, is that grass or what is that? Or is that a wall or?
That green area is landscaping, is grass.
Okay. So my question then is, somebody that's walking on the sidewalk, that's going from east to west, that what's stopping them from just continuing on, walking across your driveway entrance, walking across your grass, walking across the next driveway entrance, and then, since the other part's grass, just walking behind your cars and going up to the corner?
I guess people are people. There's nothing preventing them from doing that. We would anticipate having signage there that is a staff-only zone, but if somebody wants to walk across there and ignore the signage, I guess that's their purview. One of the reasons for having the crosswalk recommendation is with the signage that they would know to go across the street is the recommended movement. Yes, ma'am.
The entrance to go over to the courthouse is gonna be on the ground level?
For the public, they will come in the north.
No, when they're taking a prisoner over to the courthouse for court,
When they're taking a prisoner to the courthouse for court, it's on the second floor.
second floor.
And the public is on the first floor, so there's one floor separation from secure movement from public movement.
Also, when I look at this diagram, it looks like this building is gonna be awful close to the Sixth Avenue side. How far is it from the street in?
I do not have that specific drawing here, but I believe we're 16 feet off of the street. And I can get you the specific information. We have it on a site drawing that we have provided the city as it relates to the zoning and permitting process associated with this. That's on that drawing, but not on this one. But it's
And
roughly 16 feet.
And this is gonna be a two-story?
Yes,
And
correct.
so the people on the Sixth Avenue side are gonna be looking at the backside of this?
On the Sixth Avenue side, on the south facade of the building, it's a two-story building. That's correct.
Do you have anything that I can see what it's gonna look like?
If that's important to you, yes.
Yes, it is.
Jessica, what's our right-of-way on that street?
I was gonna say I'd need to look at the GIS map that's pulled up to see that. I don't know, what it is for sure. I don't know if Jason knows off the top of his head.
So I'm gonna hold this here just so it gets centered on the page. This corner over here on the left-hand side is the corner of the jail housing unit. And then as we go down toward the right-hand side is the vehicular sally port with the roll-up service doors, and you can see the green area there, the grass area that forms that turn in and out of the vehicular sally port. Does that help?
Yes, it does, because now them are windows that I see.
The windows are up high, just below the parapet line. That first bank of windows right here, those are windows. Those are up high so that you can't see into the cells. And they're bringing daylight down in, so the cell windows are below that level, and there's no ability to see into the cells.
So what's that gray area?
That is either going to be a stone-clad material or a metal panel. And below that will either be stone or brick. We're working through the material selections on the building with the client right now in terms of how that plays out. But brick or stone here, metal panel, and then window to bring light into the housing unit. Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Any other questions?
Has that temporary or the small sidewalk for the law enforcement personnel been decided on yet, or is that just kind of a proposed?
Well,
That
we
was one of the
think-
concerns I had last week,
We
I
think
think,
it's
and-
important that as law enforcement vehicles parking in those diagonal stalls, that instead of stepping out of the vehicle and walking back along the street, that they go to the front of the vehicle and walk on that private sidewalk.
Right.
Yes,
That was one of the concerns last week. I know it wasn't shown on a drawing, but I wanted to make sure that it is, in fact, gonna happen.
yes,
Okay.
that's an expectation of the project. That's what we believe is best practice.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
As I mentioned, we do have some other folks with us here tonight. We're happy to entertain any additional questions or requests for information that the council may have. We certainly want you to be able to be very well informed in making your decision and trying to be transparent, provide everything available that we have. So if there's any questions for the sheriff or our construction manager, they're available here as well, along with our building maintenance professional. If there's nothing else.
Any other questions for him?
Thank you
I guess
very
not.
much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what's the council's wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance, which it translates down to the elimination of the sidewalk. So a yes vote would eliminate the sidewalk, and no vote would not eliminate the sidewalk. So if there's no questions of that, we will have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gassman?
No?
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
No.
O'Neill?
No.
Connell?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
We are tied, so it goes to the next committee of the whole.
Could I make a point? Can we make an agreement that we'll wait till Councilman Detterman comes back, so we're not going through this every single council meeting?
If you'd like to make a motion to that, you could, or.
I'll-
My city attorney is looking like he wants to say something.
Technically, it returns to the next committee of
It
the
returns
whole,
it returns.
but anyone could make a motion to postpone it to a date certain if Councilmember Detterman hasn't returned at the next committee of the whole. So I would suggest
You have
that's
to
how we
wait till
do
the
it.
next committee of the whole.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Well, as soon as I find my note here, we will move on to item number 2, which is the CCASWA discussion. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Yep.
You didn't get your break yet.
Might
It's
as
a
well
little
do this.
different having you up there.
Yeah, I know, it's a big target, isn't it?
We're holding you to a high standard. We've had good presenters tonight.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll be good. You all should have a packet in front of you, if someone could get the lights there. Again, as you see on your agenda there's no action requested. This is informative. If you have questions at the end, Brian Rogers, who's the industrial account manager for waste management, is here, and Brad Seward, who is the operations manager for the solid waste, is here to answer questions that you may have about anything particular in there. So I invited both of them here. I'll do the presentation, and I'll let their expertise answer the questions. Okay, this is a solid waste report to the mayor and the city council. And this is pretty much what we do now as far as our participation in the Clinton County Solid Waste Association. We have a head tax based on 2010 population. The backstory of that, when this was formed, the head tax was originally $5 a head. In 2005, there was a move to make it $10 a head. So that, based on our population in 2010, our contribution is $268,850. The entire county's population, the total amount for the head tax is $491,160. So we do pay a big percentage of that. There's also a charge for tonnage as it comes into the landfill. And we are currently paying $44 a ton based on 6,567 tons, which is $288,948. And just for clarification, any particular numbers of tonnage and rates and stuff I did get from Anita as of last year. And this gives our total contribution from the city of Clinton into the Clinton Solid Waste for $557,798. This does not include administration, labor, equipment, or costs, or depreciation. The next sheet just it shows the published rates for Scott County solid waste. The number down there is the number for Kathy Morris, who's the operator there, if you want to call her about anything. The current rate there is $27 per ton. Based on our tonnage, that would be $177,309. However, the internet information, this is one of the reasons I wasn't able to present this, because I wanted to verify this. On their internet site, it says it only takes trash generated in Scott County. I did call her verify that, and she said, as of right now, that is subject to change, but they, they would have to change their agreement. So right now, they're only taking recyclables. They do not take solid waste from outside Scott County.
Ed?
Yes,
Or Councilmember O'Neill?
yes, that's fine.
Uh,
I've been called worse.
Scott County does charge for recyclables though, don't they?
Pardon me?
Scott County charges for recyclables though, isn't that correct?
I'll get to that. I got a page for it.
Okay, all right.
and,
I just remember that presentation they had.
Yeah, they will take recyclables.
Okay.
With that in mind, the potential savings would be $380,000. The Scott County landfill is about 50 miles from us, about 100 miles round trip. Takes about an hour and 5 minutes in normal traffic, about 2 hours and 10 minutes. So that's just information for you. The second is a proposal from Waste Management over at Prairie Hills in Morrison. That's the number for that facility. One of the things I did before I went in, and I started with the presentation of this study, but I did ask the city attorney to check into two things. One, what our standing is in the 28E agreement with the county, and second, if it was legally possible for us to use that facility before I went and made this presentation. He indeed assured me that there is, in fact, all of Jackson County takes their solid waste to Morrison also. So I mean, whatever we need to do would be the same thing if that was something we decided to do. So I didn't want to bring a presentation and maybe some possibilities to think about and then have it just get blockaded by something I didn't cover. So that's why I did that. The tonnage rate there is $24 per ton. With our tonnage from last year, it's 157,608. And that's it. There's no head tax, there's no tonnage fee, there's no tipping fee. You can ask the questions of Mr. Brian Rogers when he gets up here. In the past, when this has been brought up, there were big black clouds casted over this, that there'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra fees for closure, and that's just not the case. So I wanted to get that clarified. The interstation labor would remain the same. Depreciation and mileage, of course, would go up. Prairie Hills is 22 miles, 44 miles round trip from 13th Avenue North to Mill Creek. Driving under normal conditions is 28 minutes, about 10 minutes. It takes about 10 minutes to dump over there. They have an entirely different procedure. They only weigh one time in. There's not a weigh in going out. It's in and out. I went over there and watched for about 45 minutes. Big semis are in and out in less than 10 minutes. Our trucks would be in and out in about 4 to 6 minutes. So they look at the savings, $557,798 minus the 157, we'd save about $190,000. The next thing in your packet is actually an agreement put together by, this would be a standard agreement by Waste Management. You can look through that, save some questions. It has all the particulars. The reason I wanted to have that is so you would have something to base some questions on. You see in the middle of the first page, there are some fees for some additional things that, if they occur, they're usually out of the ordinary, but they are in there. This is a basic contract. It can be for 6, 7, 10 years. He provided that for something for you to generate questions from, and he'll be here to answer those. If you have any now, I'll be glad to answer them if I can.
Yeah, well, not necessarily on the agreement, but we would have to set up transfer stations, correct, and equipment and semis, and
Pardon me?
we would have to set up transfer stations and have dedicated semis for that. Are we going to send our trucks over the road? I know Jackson County sends theirs to a transfer station.
Again, I'm not proposing a new policy or a new program. That would be something to look, and there's a number of things that you could consider, and Brian can answer that much better than I can. We could do a transfer station. We could send our own cars. We could own our own trucks. That's why I gave you the driving time. Yeah, there's a number of things, but this is not a proposal to change anything right now. It's just simply information.
Right, I'm just trying to quantify the
Yeah.
additional cost. I mean, we see a considerable amount of savings, but what the additional cost is, what's our actual net savings at by the time we do investments into
That
that?
would be something that would, would need further study. The other financial management sheets there are from Anita's office, just to verify the information that's being presented. And then the next sheet is this sheet right here. Okay, this is a compilation and a total from Anita's office of the total tonnage that we provide for yard waste. And that would be an additional cost. It is not covered. You cannot mix yard waste with solid waste, so that would be, we would again be making the same collection for yard waste. And it'll be, this is gonna be a little bit, this would be about $72,000 with the amount of yard waste we have. So that would be in addition to that number there. So it's another part of the puzzle that I wanted you to have the information with. There's a number of things we could do with that. We could put into a semi and take it over in one load every month or so. There's a number of different things you can do with it, but I just wanted you to have that information too. The next one, and this is the part that I think a lot of people have some confusion on. This is how we charge for our solid waste. Okay, the city services on there, theoretically, everybody's supposed to get charged, but they don't. These are households. It's $11.44. That is us recouping the $10 head charge, a little bit of cost or a little bit of revenue for recyclables, and that gets picked up from about 8,900 households. That brings in $1,221,755. The cart charge, which is probably the most confusing part, people are not paying $8.21 a month to have their cart. And that's what they're getting charged to have garbage picked up. So a lot of people think that the cart charge is what they're getting charged for the gray cart to have it every month, and it's not. Those carts are free. We only have about 6,915 households that pay that charge. This is a very important page. I want you to make sure you keep track of that 1965 figure, $19.65. This is where we are continuing to have a deficit in our solid waste. Everyone else in the association, every town that's in there, we're the only ones that collect our own garbage, but they have it contracted out. But everyone in those towns pay for the pickup of the garbage. Where we have not done that in the past, we've never done it before, and so we have this huge cost, but we never recover our costs because not everybody's in the program. So that's something to keep in mind. And so totally we bring in $1,908,170. So that's what we do now. And this is what we collect now, and what we have for workable capital city services. The head tax and the recyclables are $11.44, about 8,899 households. That equals $1,221,654. That is leaving a few households off. I don't know exactly why, but not every single house is paying that head tax. The car charge, $8.21, 6,916 households equals 56,780 times 12. That generates $681,364 a year. Those total combined together gives us $1,093,019, minus our contribution to Clinton County Solid Waste. That leaves us with $1,344,221. The next section is what we could do, and quite frankly, regardless if we do anything different or stay exactly the same, is we should get this down to one charge and charge all the households. This is just an example. This example would be about a $2 savings for the people that are having their garbage collected now. So we would actually, if you're getting your garbage picked up and collected, it's a $2 savings off your monthly bill. It would be $17.65 flat fee. It would bring in $155,320 times 12 months, be $1,863,840, minus $157.06 if you were at the waste management site, which equals $1,706,232, or you can subtract the $557,798 from that. That, I think, is something in this report that if I'm going to, I guess, recommend anything, is that we do switch to one charge and charge all the households, and that is where we're going to solve the 2.3, which is no longer that. Anita just gave me a new figure on the deficit in the solid waste account. Oh. Or was that you told me?
It was me.
Okay.
658,000, I believe, is the deficit, the cash deficit as of 6/30 of 2016.
Okay.
Does that sound correct, Anita?
$700,000, okay, somewhere around there. And so, this going to one charge for all the households, the people that are doing it now are gonna save $2. It'd be, everybody would be included in it. This is, a citywide expense and a citywide problem. It would eliminate the deficit, and we also need to start working in there for new equipment. In the past, councils have been caught unaware because they were given some information and not the right information, that there's money for equipment, and it just wasn't there. This, I think, would go into a proprietary designated account so we can start putting money aside. Those trucks eventually will need to be replaced. Based on that, the increase in revenue in that particular case, we would increase our revenue to $361,010 increase. Now, an update on the answer Councilman O'Connell's question. This is an update on the Scott County Recycling Center. I talked to Kathy Morris just the other day. Initially, they started out with a $15 a ton charge on their recyclables. After the first month, they had enough. They got all their carts on a no-interest loan from an organization. They paid back their monthly payment on that, and then they had enough to rebate back to Bettendorf and Davenport $9 for every ton of recyclables they brought there. So theirs is a no tipping charge and a rebate program. So it's vastly improved. Something to also to consider on recyclables. This is single stream recycling. We've talked about it for probably longer than we need to. The rest of the world has been there for ages. Talking with the mayor today has a relation in Taiwan, I believe, and they are totally immersed in single stream recycling. Probably because of the size of their country, they don't need to put any more in landfills than they need to. And that's pretty much the rest of the presentation. Some of the questions that have come up are, why are we looking at this? I just think we need to maybe re-look at some of the things we're doing. We're putting more than $500,000 into this. One of the things I find objectionable about it is we're getting charged $44 a ton for our trash. Republic, Mooring, just about the rest of the haulers all have a special rate. Republic is paying $30 a ton. Mooring and the rest of them are paying somewhere around $35 a ton. One of the things we had, the head tax, the only thing the head tax was for cell reclamation, rebuilding, or building. And it has not always been used for that. But when you look at it, we're subsidizing the big haulers to bring in commercial trash at $30 and $35 a ton, filling up the landfill, which means we gotta build more cells. So, you know, we're paying the lion's share of this, and we're subsidizing the people that are filling the landfill. This is not a negative against the big haulers. They're making a profit as much big as they can. The fact of the matter is they're bringing in we're bringing in about 6,000 tons a year. They're bringing in much more. It's filling up the landfill. We're have the head tax increase once. I wouldn't fall over dead if it got increased again. But, you know, and we gotta look at the comparables, like any business decision. You know, the Scott County, same state, same area, is at $24 a ton and, or $27 a ton. Morrison is at $24 a ton. I've questioned and, many times, why, you know, we're paying that much. I made some, recommendations. I also made a couple of motions to reduce the tonnage and to reduce the head tax. Did 3 or 4 meetings in a budget meeting, had 3 or 4 agreements that did not get voted on the way they were supposed to. So we're at pretty much a standstill, and you know, we can continue that way. There's you know, that's not the whole idea of this. This is to give you the information, the good information of where we're at. This budget also has, as it stands, also has a $53,000 loss in their recyclables. And this is in total opposition to single stream recycling, which, you know, I've been a strong proponent of, Councilman Detterman's been a strong proponent of single stream recycling, and it just seems like it's, you know, it's kind of stonewalled to move forward with it. And so, you know, we're operating recyclables at a loss. Quite frankly, we're the biggest payer. And so, you know, it's information for you to make a business decision for what you like to do. Okay. Brian? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The yard waste, that doesn't, we don't have to pay to take that out there, or we do?
The yard waste to the Clinton County Solid Waste Agency is free. Well, it's not free. This I discovered looking into this. Back in, I don't know when, at some point, there was an agreement made between the city, and whether it was just the city administrator, not the city administrator, but a city administrator and the solid waste. We get free yard waste, they get free sewer. They empty their leachette pond into our sewer system, I don't know how many times a year. We don't know how much because there's not a meter on it, so they're getting free sewer and we're getting free yard waste. So that's something to keep in mind too, yeah.
Okay, some of this is what if. I have a what if.
Okay. It
And-
might be for him to answer, but
Well-
go ahead and take the question.
Why don't we take this yard waste out to our landfill on Second Avenue, and I know something has to be done first before we can use it, and turn it into compost?
Well, I think the initial answer when you and I talked about that is that's not impossible, but it does take a permit, from what I understand. It does take permitting. And again, you know, there's also a charge, I already gave you what it costs to take it over there. But if we took it over there and then
We could take the yard waste over there
we can take it
also?
over to Morrison, yes, though they will charge, that was that one sheet that was up there, that's a separate
72,000.
charge. It's, I believe, $40 a ton, so it'd be about $72,000. But you gotta remember, we would also have an income, we would then start charging for sewer, which I don't have any idea what that would be.
As far as the Second Avenue landfill, the DNR has pretty much shut that down because we have an issue with drainage into the creek from the runoff that would come from that landfill area, so we can't do it. There was an original plan, and Paul, you probably remember when the sewer plant was built out there, that they were going to build a composting center out by it. And so that, you know, we could literally take it out there and we would create compost, so the yard waste would go out there. That never got developed. So we have property that we could have a composting site, so we could do it.
But another suggestion that's come up, if there was some entrepreneur that wanted to contract with us to,
Don't
for us
look
to.
at me.
Well, that's right, you're buying that
If you buy that building up north, I think you just get into anything. No, I mean, you could
You
get.
can't do it at the summer home.
Right. It could be an entrepreneurial project for somebody who wanted, that has the land, that would get the permit. They could take our they could take our yard waste, and they could make compost and turn it into a business. I mean, that's another, and, you know, that's something that might be an incubator study for somebody who wants to start a business, so. With that, I'll introduce.
I have a quick question.
Go
Is there any way we can, well, I guess maybe a two-part question, but the what could we do section where you had the one charge system laid out at 1765, is there any way in our current system that we could go to a one charge system, but then see the difference of instead of taking it to waste management, still taking it in town, or relatively there, under that one charge system? Would we see any savings? I mean, you're saying we're seeing savings, but the savings that comes at
Yeah.
taking it to Morrison,
And-
is there
and
a?
again, this isn't a proposal for.
Right.
for yeah, I'm giving you this information so you as colleagues in the body can decide what you wanna do. I just wanna give you the information, and I'll have Brian come up and answer any questions you have about that facility, and Brad Stewart's here to answer any questions if you have with him. Okay?
Well, I think to answer your question, if you take the 557,000 from the up above number, which is the fee that we pay to Clinton County.
Yep.
And insert it down where you have the fee for minus to waste management, and put it in there, and then do a new subtraction, you have your number. And you can see that the two, there's a substantial difference between those two.
would be
Just wanna make sure there was.
$1,000 less.
Would you, for the record, identify yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Brian Rogers. I'm the Industrial Account Manager for Waste Management. I handle most of Illinois, outside of Chicago, and eastern Iowa. So I often deal with municipalities and third-party haulers, and I negotiate the contracts with them to haul into waste management facilities. So I won't go into a long resume about waste management. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but we do operate, you know, a couple hundred landfills and several transfer stations. So we can kind of share some of our expertise of what we see going in the marketplace, answer some direct questions about, is it feasible to do a transfer station versus what we call a direct haul? If you were to bring what we call MSW, which stands for Municipal Solid Waste, out to Prairie Hill. And in this scenario, you would want a direct haul out there. You're doing about 500 to 600 tons a month, and it just wouldn't justify the cost of, it can be quite expensive for a transfer station. Hauling that directly out to Prairie Hill, we do not have a hauling company in this area. So Waste Management does not bring our own direct haul trucks into Prairie Hill. So we are dependent on third parties and other municipalities that bring their waste to us. We've handled volumes as high as 3,000–4,000 tons a day, so we're used to very large volumes. Once DeKalb opened up, we actually quit taking, just due to logistics, some of the Chicagoland garbage. It was closer to stop at DeKalb, so now we have all of the assets still sitting at Prairie Hill, same manpower. We have a tipper, which I'll go into in a minute. So we don't need to add anything for your volume to come to us. So we've held the same price for Whiteside County for 20 years, $18.04 a ton, and we're still very profitable. So we're a for-profit organization, and with the addition of this, it's a discounted rate. We want your business, but I think at that $24, you're gonna see some huge savings, and it's worth the extra, it's gas and man hours. You might have a little tire wear and tear, but if you consider those and you can put your own values to them, you'll see that you're gonna save a significant amount of money in a budget item that needs it. So if you want to understand what a tipper is, for businesses that haul a long distance, the most efficient way is to drop it on the floor, load it into a semi so you can get more tonnage, and then you bring it out to a landfill like Prairie Hill. Well, what Prairie Hill has is a tipper on it, so the truck can back up, he disconnects, the dollies are down, and it takes approximately 4 minutes to go up and dump the garbage out of the semi, and then they can get out of there. So they're in one active area of our landfill, and then our direct haul or direct drive is at another place. So as you get farther away, that is correct. That's the most efficient way, but for 22 miles, you would never want to put that expense in.
Any other questions for him? You've already covered quite a bit, I think.
Sure.
What, I saw there's a note on here, 3% annual increase for years 2 through 5. And then I assume the contract goes through 2021, had to be renewed again. Other municipalities, perhaps from Iowa, hauling to your facility, are they at this $24 a ton rate, or are they higher? Or?
They were on a 10-year contract.
Okay.
This was just an initial proposal because I think the 5-year coincides with some of your programs. So all of this, like the terms, this is our initial offering, and we could negotiate further. We like longer term deals. There's pros and cons about both.
Yes.
Things can change. We never know what happens. But the biggest thing, and the reason you should be bringing this to us, is when you pay that monthly charge for whatever ton you bring us, you're done. Your liability is stopped. We assume all liability, and that is no longer your garbage, that's our garbage. So the EPA likes to change their mind and extend how long we're on the hook for different things like landfills. And when you need to babysit the garbage for 50 years, you'll be glad that you brought it to us and we're babysitting it and we're responsible for it. Any cleanups, any super funds, it's our garbage, and that's part of the terms and conditions in our agreement, which is why large industry prefers Waste Management if all things are equal versus other landfills, is we take on the liability. Yes.
2 questions. Does just Macokota bring trash over there, or all of Jackson County?
Jackson County.
The whole county?
And they use the transfer trailers.
So they have a transfer station, put in a trailer, and
That's
their
correct.
distance justifies it?
Correct.
Can you tell us their tonnage?
I don't have it offhand.
Okay. On the Exhibit A for the contract, there's a couple of things questions you and I didn't talk about before. Certificate of burial for $50, what is that?
Yes, sometimes we will have businesses that have outdated product. Anheuser-Busch would be a popular one. They don't want people drinking their expired beer, so they want to actually see it get disposed of, and then we actually supply a certificate of destruction. So I type up a formal letter that says, yes, this was disposed of, usually attach a couple pictures. Another one would be coffins. If there's a scratch on a coffin, they're probably doing it for an insurance claim and want to send it back. They know people probably would
You get many of
use
those?
that. Yes.
Out of Chicago?
No, I'm actually from Peoria, Illinois, so I'm a Central Illinoisan, and
No, but the coffins come out of Chicago?
no, they're more local. Now,
They're
one
empty.
thing I will say is that a wood coffin is really well made.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And what would constitute a rejection fee? That was the other question I had.
Well, a lot of these aren't going to apply to you. You have our most common waste stream, municipal solid waste, but we get into very unique waste streams. They might need analytical or reports where something has a consistency. When you do a sludge clean out for a wastewater treatment plant, that material might not pass paint filter test, and so that would be rejected because we're held to waste management standard, which is even higher than the EPA standard, and they're standing on our property.
Gotcha. Okay.
What about building demolitions? You know, this may not be us, but citizens or businesses within Clinton that like, okay, it's like asbestos removal. Can you take that?
Yes, we just talked with the city that owns the landfill about 2 years ago, and they allowed us to start receiving friable and non-friable inside Whiteside County, and then they set the rate for friable and non-friable asbestos for outside the county. So it's not negotiable. They will take it. They were afraid that they would become the dumping ground of Chicago's asbestos, but that's not the case. It's just too far to truck it. But yes, we can receive it. And just last year, we got a special waste permit, which they never could accept special waste before, and now we can take that as well.
So wait a minute, they own the landfill and you guys run it?
Yes, we operate it for them.
And how long you been operating it?
20 years.
20 years. And is that for an
Life
on-off?
of site.
Okay.
And we have about 54 years at current volumes.
Okay.
And you can usually, then you can go for expansions, things of that nature.
Do you have room to expand?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna outlive my lifetime.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I guess not.
Okay, well, we appreciate
Wait,
the
wait,
opportunity.
Hang on for just a second. Dan, do you have a question or for us, or you need to come up because the audience at home cannot hear you back there.
I was wondering, the gentleman mentioned the liability of the landfill, and that liability wouldn't exist. I guess I was just wondering, does that mean that the liability of the current Clinton County Solid Waste Agency landfill and all the waste that's been disposed of there by the city would no longer exist either? I guess I was trying to understand if that was meant to be a trade-off to vacate existing liability, or why that was represented that way.
That would be future liability coming to Waste Management. So whatever you have current, I'm not familiar with how your system is set up, but anything that's approved and comes to a Waste Management facility alleviates you of any liability.
Yeah, I think the reason that was brought up, because some of my predecessors who've looked into this have always had this voodoo waved in front of them that there be existing liability on the closeout of this one, which is true, but that over there, you had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fees, and you had to contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars towards closure fees, and so it was never pursued because people listened to what they were told. And, so that's why during our first meeting, I was very specific. It's $24 and that's it.
I know
And
it.
he made it very clear. Once you dump the garbage, it's mine.
It sounds too good to be true, but it is. And that's just part of our business model, and we assume those risks associated with it.
And this is not to give anyone the indication that there is liability still on this waste facility for what we've contributed into it. So that doesn't go away. We're not getting rid of that. You're looking at changing method of disposal.
You're eliminating future.
Exactly.
What kind of liability, as a number, do we have a quantified number for that, of existing liability that we could potentially have if that were to change, or does?
Well, it's something to be determined, but Brad can answer it better than I can. And how they come up with closure costs, I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Brad, you want to come up and explain the liability?
Brad Seward, Clinton County Area Solid Waste Agency, 4292 220th Street, here in rural Clinton. The liability is determined each year by our financial assurance form, which is part of the $44 tipping fee. It is included and what you've been doing is putting $4 a ton away for your liability purposes. There is approximately $5 million stowed away for closure, post-closure action. So you are covering yourselves preemptively.
I guess, can you give me some insight as to why some of the motions at the meetings have gone not the way that maybe Councilmember O'Neill, I think, has tried to maybe negotiate a little bit or give some feedback on that, maybe?
Not being a member of the board of directors, I cannot necessarily give you the rationale of the decision that was made. I'm sure that if you contacted the members of the board of directors or your other constituents out there in that agency, I believe they'd be more than willing to talk to anybody on the Clinton City Council.
Who is the chair?
The chairman is Doug Goodall from the city of Delmer. And I'll give you the other officers as well. Vice chair is Paul Varner, city of Comanche. And the treasurer secretary is John Stazeski from the Clinton County Board of Supervisors.
Do we have any leeway on our tonnage rate?
Anything is up. If you can convince the board of directors to go whatever route, I will do whatever the board of directors wants me to do.
Okay, so that all lies with the board, basically.
I believe that anything is possible. I believe that anything can be discussed. Again, ultimately, it doesn't come down to my decision. I'm not the board of directors. So.
Do you have any general comments or anything you want to add? You saw the presentations and just any comments you want to make? Or
I
talk
guess
about?
I would ask what the city of Clinton would like to do if they choose to go to another facility with their household hazardous waste. Right now, our biggest user is the city of Clinton. It's somewhere in the 60 to 70% range, and our $44 per ton rate has not been changed since 1993. The fee, the tip fee, includes many things. One of the things the city of Clinton is not paying for, so therefore getting a discount or in exchange, we don't know that, like you mentioned, was the yard waste. The yard waste in exchange for the sewerage. That, and just for clarification, that was an agreement arranged in 2005 between Mr. Jeff Koistra and the Solid Waste Agency. Also, there is recycling that is factored in your planning. If you do decide to leave the Solid Waste Agency, you will be required to conduct your own Iowa Comprehensive Plan, which is due to the Department of Natural Resources every 3 to 5 years. You will also have to come up with a plan to show how you are diverting yard waste, recycling, household hazardous materials, and that's part of what's included in the $44. There's a lot of things that get included in that. And there was a question. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
None of which the private haulers are required to do?
The private haulers
apparently?
are not, they do not, they have to pay for everything that the residents get for free at the Solid Waste Agency. So any household hazardous waste that comes in, they will pay for. So paints, light bulbs, batteries, motor oil, antifreeze. Currently, can come out to us for free. If you guys withdraw from the agency, I don't know what the situation would be.
Well, they do have a fee for some of those things.
For computers and appliances.
Even the fluorescent bulbs.
No. Not for non-businesses.
Okay.
If you operate a business There is a charge for them,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yep. but for residents, no. And I guess I wanted to just, while I have a moment, say kudos to you guys.